So a couple weeks back, we were joined here by Casero and Echo 3. And as part of that discussion about the state of Destiny, Echo 3 was also talking about the future of Destiny. And one of the things he mentioned was, with the pending release of ARH 8, we are expecting an ARH reprint list. So today I want to talk about that, what might be on it, implications of that, and everything around. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my Star Wars Destiny friends. Welcome back to Destiny Friday on a Saturday. That's right, it was a rough week at work, but we're here on Saturday morning, so thanks for your patience and thanks for tuning in and joining me. Now, a couple weeks back, as I mentioned, Casero and Echo 3 joined us for State of Destiny chat, and we got a great chat. We got spoilers, which everybody cares about. They also talked about the future, namely the fact that an ARH reprint list is coming, which to me is very exciting. We've talked about the possibilities of that in the past and how that would be implemented and how would it be merged, would it be kept separate? Sure, we don't know all the details, but what I wanted to do tonight was go through FA and Redemption, which will be the two that are out, right? And thus the two that would be the target of said reprint list, and kind of give my speculations on that. Now, the method we're going to do by this is one, you know me, the old man with the notebook, right? So I've got my notes, but for visuals and enhancing the viewer experience, look how that works. We're going to go through this as well. You can see it on the side, and that'll help us bring the cards up, but in editing, I'll of course put up the cards and do the overlays and all that good stuff, okay? Now, tactically, we've talked about kind of my philosophy on reprint before, many times, but when we get to doing reprints, the thing there's two rules by and large that I just accept as being a truth. It doesn't mean I like them. I just accept them, right? It's just the way it is. That's where my head is from an assumption, okay? It doesn't mean it's a bad thing, doesn't mean it's a good thing. It's just when I'm thinking ahead as to what would be reprinted and why, there's a couple of things we keep in mind. The first is, by and large, your dice cards are the ones that are fun to create, right? They're the ones that are exciting. It's a new character. It's a new weapon. It's something that does something cool, and the level of interactions from a design standpoint are much, much higher because that's a die. Then you have special sides, and you have a thing. It's very cool, right? So we need to keep in mind that your dice cards need to be very, very, very unique and need to bring a special, they have to have a place in order to be reprinted. It's not going to be reprinted just because it's cool, right? That's not the way it works. It has to have a place within the game, okay? At least that's where my head is. And by and large, I think that's held pretty consistently, okay? The next part of that, right, is, it has to be something that is unique and can't really be done better somewhere else, right? There are many core staples in the game, and of those cards, do they do something that if you made another card, you'd just be like, oh, that's either a better or worse version of this, okay? Now, there are reasons that you would do like a worse version of something is if it was too good, right? And you could come in and do a better version of something if you created it and it was bad, okay? So there's those two exceptions, but fundamentally, if a card does something and it's just good in what it does, regardless of whether it's good in the meta or not, you're going to utilize that card as a reprint, okay? So that's where my head is at on this whole thing. Now also, just to mention, we do expect roughly 50. That's in my head. I think he said it was roughly 50. I'm actually not going to go back and pull the video because it's not worth it. But that is what I heard, or at least I remember hearing. Now, I'm not going to propose 50 cards tonight. My list is much shorter. It's a little higher than 25. So let's start going through this, okay? So the first one I have on my list is Jarkai. Okay, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't think Jarkai is going to be reprinted, but I wanted to speak to this one particularly because this is a fantastic card, right? Did it have power implications later on in different metas? Yes, it did. But what a phenomenally designed card, and how it opened up design spaces. It was always there as kind of like an archetype, and you could sub stuff in, and it worked with different characters, and it was kind of a plug and play type model. Stuff like that is really, really good. Now, I don't think Jarkai, not only do I think it won't be, but I don't think it should be. But stuff like this in terms of facilitating playstyles, being a linchpin in a playstyle is probably not enough to get you reprinted. Being a support of a playstyle will get you reprinted. So I hope I'm consistent at least with that theme as we go through. All right, first one on my list, I'm doing my best to go through this in order so I don't have to bounce around. I do think Second Sister. Okay, so Second Sister, the Expert Duelist, I think at a 10-13, being an Inquisitor, she's just a fundamentally good character that interacts with what kind of the Inquisitor archetype wants to do. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Second Sister hit. Again, she doesn't define the Inquisitor archetype, but she'll be very good support for that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see her going forward. Now, the one caveat to this is there's not a ton of Inquisitors. Again, remember, once we lose FA and Redemption, lose a lot of that early stuff. There's not a ton of that. But again, you have to think for the future, and I'm thinking for the future that she's a pretty good choice, pretty good likely choice for a reprint. Right, next I have Peace is a Lie, which is where? Oh, right below. Yeah, Tarot and Malicos, not getting reprinted. All right, so Peace is a Lie. Play only if all your characters in play are blue. Spot a Sith or Inquisitor to remove all shields from all characters. So it works for mono, it works for multi. I think this is a perfect card. You could make a bunch of cards that do something similar, but this one covers 2 archetypes. It's mono, so it's restricted. It fits within theme. I think this is a card that this is the type of card, and I think this one fits a reprint. All right, next is the Inquisitorius, which should be down here somewhere. Once I can learn to read, there we go. The Inquisitorius. This is a plot, again, within the Inquisitor archetype. So it's a really good thing to have on the reprint list because it doesn't do anything unless they make new stuff to facilitate, right? It's just there as a support so they can move stuff in, move stuff out, and it can kind of stay there as a staple. I think it makes a lot of sense. It fits within the defined archetype, not just from ARH, but from forever in terms of what Inquisitors and kind of blue villain wants to do. Right, next, this one is debatable. I have it in here because I like it. It's very unique, and I think if they did something else, people would just be like, oh yeah, that's this card. And that's Kayuzo Patar. So I really like what this does. I think the fact that it's villain with dual blanks, I think it's really cool. I think it works really well within the archetype. I don't know that something can be done. Again, to be clear, this is a dice card. They could make something kind of the same, but I think a lot of time people would just relate it back, oh, it's a better Patar, it's a worse Patar, or something like that. So I think this one's worthy of being on the reprint list just as a staple. And I gotta say, it was from FA. It hasn't been in the meta. I think bringing it back's an option, right? I think it's an option. Okay. Next, going all the way down, that's right, skipping whole bunch of stuff, but I have BD1. Now, Andrew, why BD1 without Cal Kestis? Well, first off, there could be more Cal Kestis in the future, but if you look at him and what he does, spot a Jedi to move this upgrade to it, heal 2 damage. I think in terms of having bouncing upgrades and stuff like that, I think that works within multiple archetypes for Blue Hero. Specifically, in this case, specifically Jedi. But I think it works within those archetypes. So that's why I have him on my list. Certainly, or them, I suppose, it on my list. That's just where my head is for that. All right, next I have Medic. Okay, now this one's an interesting one because it's kind of a field medic, right? It's kind of a first aid, right? There's been many iterations on that. And I think Medic fits, okay? Because it has the ambush and it's the red version. You have it's not as good as Field Medic if you're playing mono, or if you're playing it's not as good as Field Medic if you're not playing mono, okay? Or at least dual character mono. It's got ambush, and it rewards you only for red characters, so that's why you get the ambush on it. I think this one works because I think it kind of rounds out that suite. I could potentially see another corner case, kind of like doing the square, potentially see another corner case design there. In terms of that, right? Like non-red, right? And maybe even be free in that case, like heal non-red, heal equal to number non-red. Like that's a design possibility that could fit in if they're trying to promote like a, multi-color deck or something like that. I think this one fits, despite the fact that there's other options. I still think it fits to that point. Okay. The next one going down, I have the DL18 Blaster. So this is another one kind of in the vein of the Patar. Okay, you can resolve the range size of this die as if they were a modifier with no resource cost. I think this is really cool. This is well done. I think it's perfect. I don't think you can do it better. I say just reprint the sucker, have it be ever present. I like it. Okay, I like it a lot. All right, next I have Will of the Force. So going down to neutral blue. So Will of the Force I think works really well. Resolve one of your dice showing a shield without removing it from your pool. Then remove that die again. Resolve that die again. Spot a card with the word mastery and is titled to gain one resource, right? There's a lot going on there, but that's kind of the point, is it fits with a lot of different things, okay? You're always going to have, at least in theory, you're always going to have some sort of shield-based blue hero, right? Makes sense. Masteries, we have plenty of masteries left to go. I think this one works in that realm, okay? Next, we have Faltering Allegiances, primarily because it's the Zet shout out, but it also I think works really well in terms of what this card was designed to do. Deal 1 damage to blue, deal 1 damage to red, do 1 damage to yellow. Remember, it's not just your opponents, you have to do it yourself. This card is very well done in terms of design. It fits. I think this is a shoe-in. This one is a shoe-in, and it's a shout out again to Faltering Allegiances. Right? I could very well see that the reprint list always has like the set shout out card in it just for nostalgia and tip of the hats, right, to previous sets. All right, last one. This is the one I think out of this set will be most controversial, is Vibrasword. Okay, Vibrasword, I really miss this card. I do. I know that it was kind of almost ever present in certain cases, and you know, if you look at the history of Destiny, I actually think that's okay. I think it's okay that it's gone, but I also think it's okay. And I don't, can you do something better than this? I don't think you can. I think it's very well done. You've got multiple options there. I think it works really well. So I would like to see Vibrasword come back, if only to really kind of put a power cap perspective on things. I think it would work really well. Okay. So let me know if you agree with those from FA or not. And now we'll switch over to Redemption. Okay. So there's one this one, I've been back. So this one is not on my list, but I went back and forth on this one. Darth Xana is really, really, really cool. Plus it had the donated art, which is also awesome. This card's really well done. This whole set, like if you really look at this set from there was the power creep problem in this set for sure. But this whole set is really well done, right? Elrathian and his crew did a phenomenal job on this set. If you really look at it from just like an overall design standpoint and just the creativity and how they made the creativity work with you. Anyway, I don't want to fanboy out on that forever. I don't think Xana comes back, but there's certainly an argument for it in being an apprentice, working with Sith, Rule of Two, all that stuff. There's certainly an argument for that. Again, so let me know if you think below that Darth Xana should be reprinted. I think probably no, because you can do something probably similar and in a different way that gels better instead of trying to do an ever-present. But there's definitely an argument there. Right, moving down, the first one I have is Watch Your Career with Great Interest. Now, keep in mind that this is the one that flips to Darth Vader. Okay, I think that this is just a really good kind of ever-present build-around type thing. And I know that conflicts a little bit with kind of my theory on Jar-Kai, but I think this one's different because it's a team included one, and I think the plots work different with that, right? I think this is really cool. You're going to see another one later. I mean, the Dagobah system is going to be on my list later. We'll talk about that. It kind of is in the same vein. I think this really has a good spot, kind of in the ever-present of it, just because of what you're trying to do. Plus, it's thematic, right? I mean, is there a greater moment in Star Wars? I'm not going to legit ask that question. Oh my God. But this was pretty good. Okay. All right. Next we have going all the way down to the Reds. I have several from the Reds, probably because of my own bias in liking the, Relentless package, the Tick package, the Ping package. They have reprinted Pyre. Remember on the FFG reprint list has Pyre on there kind of for that Ping reason. So offensive position I have on here, right? If an opponent removed one of your red dice during their turn this round, roll it into your pool, take control of the battlefield. battlefield control, a lot of options, conditional. Card's really well done. I think it needs reprinted. I don't think, I mean, you can do something different and similar and switch up the things, but you'd basically be copying and iterating on that card. All right, next we have, I already mentioned it, Relentless Advance, wherever the heck it is. This plot is awesome. Absolutely phenomenal. It has team up, lots of options for build there. And because it's team up trooper, mini troopers, I could see this with Moff Gideon in the future, some Moff Gideon build, or Thrawn in the future, and I don't know, the stormtroopers with the tape on them. I forget what they are. Death. They're not death troopers, but whatever they are. Zombie troopers. Let's go with that. I know that's not wrong. Hate me in the comments below, right? But this has so many options. I can't see this card not being ever present. Phenomenal, fun, puts people on a ticking clock. Love it. Absolutely love it. Needs reprinted. All right, the next one is XJ9CS14. This was a very creative way to do battlefield switching. It's something that's still very limited in the ARH world, the ARH bubble, is the battlefield. Heck, even in the SOG era, there was only a handful of cards that could do it, right? This one's actually able to do it more than once, right? You have to roll the special, but it's a die card with guns on it. This card's very well done. I think it has a place in Forever Destiny. Okay. Everybody Profits. This one I do expect to be a little controversial as well because it leads to blowouts. But in of itself it's not that this facilitates a playstyle, but it's kind of a linchpin in certain types of playstyles. And you definitely want indirect bomb to be a thing, I think, in this game, right? Indirect math itself really adds a lot of complexity and design to the game. And when you can come up with these things where, okay, I'm going to generate a bunch of, it's kind of like misdirected aggro, right? I can generate a bunch of damage, but you get to choose where it goes, so it's in your advantage, or you have that advantage, so it devalues my aggro a little bit, but I'm still throwing 2s and 3s and 4s, generating ping damage. I can't see a Destiny without that having some sort of archetype, and I think this fits well into it. And then on top of that, it also spins it, because a lot of time that ping damage, like we were talking about with Relentless, you're going to look at mono red in that case, but then you also want the yellow to have access to stuff like this. And I think it really provides some design change-ups, and it also provides a little design control for them. So I think, I get the argument on this one, but I think this one works. I think it's really well done. Okay. And man, how many games have been closed out with that? That's maybe an argument to not do it, but I think it fits. I think it fits. Okay. All right. Next we have Force Reflexes down here. So choose a blue die in your pool to remove 2 die showing a combined value less than or equal to the chosen's die value plus 1. This is a very reasonable blowout card. Or I should say blowout. It's a very reasonable removal card. Much better than, again, we do not expect Headstrong. We do not expect Power of the Tribe. Do not expect your powers are weak to be reprinted, right? This one I think can be, and I think it fits in that vein into much, like this is more Beguile type level, I think, than those other ones. Okay. So I do think that one. Right, next we talked about this. You will go to the Dagobah system. Again, this is a build around. There's always going to be apprentice characters coming up. I imagine there will be an apprentice Sabine, right? This seems to smell like you could do an Ahsoka Sabine. You will go to the Dagobah system deck, right? That's cool. And and in the future, right? I don't even know what's coming in the pipeline, but stuff like that's going to always be a thing. So I think this should always be a thing. I think it works. It's a 3-drop. It works. It works. All right, another one. So again, I'm not huge on characters being reprinted, but this one I am. So Chewbacca. This is RDM Chewbacca. This is Guardian, Take a Ping Chewbacca. I think he's basically the staple to that archetype. He probably perpetually carries like a -1/-1 balance of the Force with him, I would think. I don't know. He's got 13 health, but who doesn't have 13 health these days? 15s have 12. So I really think he works in terms of facilitating other. He himself's not a guard, but you understand the Guardian thing that I'm driving at. I think it works with him, and I think he probably deserves to be on the list in terms of kind of opening up that potential space, right? Then you always have to worry about, plus your 12, or sorry, your 13s and potentially your 14s if he perpetually carries a balance thing. You can always get somebody and maybe get some value out of protecting them, keeping them alive. I think it makes sense. All right. Wookiee Fluttercraft is my next one. Kind of in the same vein. Now, this one is after you activate the support, if there's no damage on it, they move 1 damage from a character with guarding to this card. So this is not specifically Wookiee, or it's not specifically Chewbacca related, but you're going to have characters with guardian in the future. I think this fits really well in that vein as just a good support you can put down. It gets you 1 heal, right? I think it works with that because you're always going to have guardian being a thing. So I think that's legit. Right, kind of to that end, to a certain extent, I also have Rallying Cry on my list. I think this is a card that you just can't really do better. So if an opponent deals you damage, you basically get to remove 1 other die in response. And I mean, a reasonable die, right? 2 or less. I like it. I don't think you can do it better. I really don't think you can do a card better than that, right? You'd basically have to do it in a different color or some sort of other switch on it that would effectively be the same. I think this card's probably a shoe-in, I would say, to the reprint list. Right, Defensive Perimeter. So I do have, where is Defensive Perimeter? Oh, that's right, stuck here. So this is the battlefield, very small on your screen, right? But remove 1 of your dice to give your character 2 shields. It's a hero battlefield. The reason I have a couple battlefields on this list is, we've talked about this before on here. We've actually talked about it with Echo before. Designing battlefields and balancing battlefields is very, very, very hard in this game. So reusing as many of them as possible that haven't had problems and have worked well just makes inherent sense. And this is one of them that I think kind of fits basically the hero theme. It works well with, like a trooper type deck or a defensive type deck, a mill type deck even, right? I know I'm going to hell for saying that, but I think it tracks. Again, battlefields are tough, so when we have good ones, why not take advantage of them and reuse them and release pressure on making new battlefields? I think that tracks. Now, this one I went back and forth for a while. This is Force Valor. So Force Valor is very strong. It's a very good ability upgrade. Gives you options. And I guess that's why this ended up on my list, is I don't know that you should do one better than this. I'm not saying that this is like the top tier of power level. We've definitely seen ones that have better 2-drop value. But I think this one hits that sweet spot of being good, giving you the options. You always want ability deck. I don't think you can design a card that does what this card does much better than this card. So I think we should lock it in and take advantage of that and put Force Valor on that list. DC 17 Hand Blaster. So there's an argument against this one in that they have the gray baby blaster in the 2-player set, like the Galactic Struggle. So there's an argument against that. But that one has redeploy if on red. This one's just and include if red does not have redeploy. So they do very different things. They fit different niches. We've, for a long history of Star Wars Destiny, had multiple 1-drop baby blasters. Right? We had the one from Awakenings, and then we had one in, I think it was Legacies. Is that where we got it? Something like that. I think that sounds about right. It fits. It works. I think 2 of them have their place in the right deck. And I think this one, again, lock it in. Otherwise, you're going to be making another one. Because I think there's a spot for it, and I think there's a design spot for it. So you may as well lock this in. I guess that's kind of the logic, because I think you're going to see something very similar to it. Sure, maybe they switch up a die and pay sides and stuff like that, but functionally, you're going to be looking at the same thing, right? Right. Small Battles 1. That one might have actually been up top. It was. So Small Battles 1, this card, again, just works really well. Okay, for 0, resolve 1 of your red die, showing a value of 1 without removing it from your pool. Can't be used on a special. The card works really well. It's essentially right, we've had those cards for the history of Destiny, right? We had like logistics and stuff like that, where you could get an extra resource, stuff like that. This is functionally that. Works. Absolutely works. Plus it lets you keep the die in the pool to do other things. So I think this is actually better than like a logistics in terms of a design and strategy standpoint. I like it. Okay. We should re-roll it too. Try to get more out of it. Anyway, works. Next card is Fury. This card's very good. Spot a character has 17 or more points to remove an opponent's die. You can't do that better, right? You're looking at like, hey, here's your reward for playing bigs as opposed to going 4 wides or 3 wides, which was definitely a problem in the early days. Mathematically is favored, so it can certainly become a thing in the future. Rewarding people for playing big characters makes sense. This card's a shoe-in for the list, no question about it. I can't see that card not being on the list. Next, I have Cyber Center. So if your hand size increased by 1 until the end of the round, heal 1 damage from a character. This is very good. Very, very good. But it was fine. It's been fine. Again, right? I mean, I already explained the logic on good battlefields. Ride that pony, right? You already did good. You may as well take advantage of doing good. The last card I have, the Death of CT-4040, has 0 impact on standard constructed as we know it, but it's there for what it's there for. This card 100% is on the reprint list because there's no reason not to. It facilitates 4040 for the 2 people out there in the world that probably want to play it, who probably aren't playing AR standard anyway. Let's just be honest with ourselves. There's no reason not to put this on there because this card does exactly what it want to do. This is the one card you can absolutely say nothing can do it better than this card. So ship it. Like I said, it probably doesn't need to be shipped all in all, but there's no reason not to. Even if you have 50, stick this on as a 51. This card needs reprinted. It needs to exist because people wanted this card. That's why it was made. So let's do it. All right, folks. Well, that's actually it. That's my list. I don't know, actually. I mean, because counting is hard. I don't know exactly how many cards. It was not 50, but those are the ones that I see. But I really would like to know your stuff below. What do you think should be on there? Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know. It's completely fair. We will find out soon enough what's on the reprint list and what isn't. But ultimately, I think a lot of these cards are shoe-ins, and a couple of them very debatable. So again, let me know. Either way, have a great rest of your weekend. If you are watching this on the weekend, you're watching it Monday morning. Hope your weekend was great. Have a great week. Nothing else, folks. Thanks for joining, and go Commando.